put on your space seatbelts and let's get out in there onto the space roads. Hey pals, Alicia here. I hope you are doing well. And if you're new here, this is the place where we talk about books. Today I am here to go over my December TBR, all the books that I plan to read in the month of December. I've got two TBRs to go over today. The first one is my Bias Breaker readathon TBR, and then second I will go over my D20 challenge, which is my monthly TBR game that I play every month to help me pick books from my shelf. So without further ado, let's just dive in and chat about some books. First things first, I'm going to go over my Bias Breaker Readathon TBR. And if you aren't yet familiar with the Bias Breaker Readathon, I'm gonna tell you about it. So the Bias Breaker Readathon is a 2-week-long readathon that is hosted by Kat at Bibliobscura. It runs from December 4th to December 20th and is just a fantastic readathon that is about breaking our biases and highlighting underrepresented voices. In this readathon, there are 3 teams. You can pick a team that you want to be on, and then you basically travel through space via reading prompts, which just sounds incredible. So there are 3 teams. There are the Interstellar Spies, there are the Renegade Researchers, and then there are the Privateer Pilots. And I am one of 3 co-hosts for the Privateer Pilot team. So the other 2 hosts are Kat herself of Bibliobscura and then Bert at Pastorytime. And we are just gonna pilot through space, drive through space like expert space folk, and get us from Earth to our destination. And then each team has their own specific reading prompts and reading challenges associated with the readathon. So if you want to get wild, you could do all of the reading challenges. No one's stopping you from doing that, but you do not have to. So I have a TBR for the prompts and reading challenges associated with the Privateer Pilot, and let's just chat about them. Why don't we? The first reading prompt, which spans across all teams, is to read the group book. And the group book is Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. This is a 2020 release by Sayaka Murata. Her previous novel was Convenience Store Woman, which I read last year and was one of the best books that I had read last year. So I am highly anticipating this. This is about a woman who believes that she is either an alien or a witch, and that just sounds weird and wild and wonderful, and I'm really excited about this. There are some trigger warnings in this book, I believe, for child abuse. So just if you are interested in reading the group book, I would just do a bit of research to see if it's something that you are comfortable with. And if you aren't comfortable with reading the group book, you don't have to read it. You can just post your TBR on social media and tag bias__breaker, which is the social media handle for this readathon. So this is the group book. I will be reading it and I am very excited to do so. The second book specific to the Privateer Pilot team is to read a book with a physically disabled or neurodiverse main character or author. In my research planning for this readathon, there were so many incredible books that came into my radar, which I feel like even that experience alone is really it's just a really positive side effect from this readathon. It's like put so many books onto my TBR and onto my radar. And I couldn't narrow it down to 1 book, so I have identified 2 books that I would ideally like to read them both, but at the very least pick between these 2 books during the readathon. The first one that I have, this is a nonfiction book called Disability Visibility: First-Person Stories from the 21st Century, edited by Alice Wong. This is a 2020 release and is a collection of essays from different authors that are all own voices exploring the first-person experience of being disabled in the 21st century. I heard about this book on a Sunny Book Nook's channel, and it just sounded like an incredible, rewarding experience to read, getting a lot of unique and diverse perspectives, and that just, I feel like this absolutely encompasses this prompt really well, and I'm also very excited to get to be reading more nonfiction, which is a genre that I always get a lot out of, but for some reason I have trouble fitting them onto my TBR. My second pick for this prompt is a book that I actually found on my shelf, which was really exciting, and that is Creature by Hunter Shea. This is a horror novel, and I love reading horror, so to find a horror book that kind of perfectly fit into this prompt was really exciting. In Creature, we are following a married couple, and the wife, Kate, she struggles with chronic pain and an autoimmune disease that has kind of left her feeling a little bit trapped in her life. And her husband decide to go for a getaway, go to a cabin in the woods, and then I believe it kind of turns into a horror from there. You got the title Creature. I'm imagining there is some sort of creature. So I was kind of hesitant to pick this one because I wasn't sure if the representation was going to be positive. I feel like when you have representation like this in a horror, I feel like there's kind of iffy on how that representation is portrayed, but I was scrolling through Goodreads and there was a lot of Own Voices reviewers who were reading this and just felt very represented in this narrative. So I feel like while this is very much a horror that is going to experience a lot of horror elements, the portrayal of this couple and how they are working together to support each other and kind of overcome this piece of their life, or just even coping with and living with and dealing with this piece of her life, is I feel like it's said to be very kind of tender and positive and just good representation. So I am very interested in reading that. I've had this on my shelf for a while. I have seen it around BookTube again. I believe I just saw Jason talk about this, as well as Mindy from Mindy's Book Journey. So it's been on my radar recently. So I really think I'm really excited to get to this one soon. So the next Privateer Pilot reading prompt is to read a book either from the Middle East, Africa, South or Southeast Asia, or the non-US and Canada Americas. So you can just pick one of those regions and find a book that either has an author from there, that is set there, that was published from there. I feel like this is, again, another one where I have just identified a lot of areas where I haven't read from. So that's just like a really good reminder, to keep me thinking about it, to keep me on it, to really call out my reading habits, which is another incredible side effect of this readathon. So for this one, I have picked Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. This is a YA, possibly even middle grade story. Akwaeke Emezi is from Nigeria, and in this we are following a girl. She lives in a world where there is like no crime, there's no monsters, it's just like that kind of part of the world has been erased. And then this creature named Pet comes out of one of her mother's paintings one day and is going on a quest to hunt monsters. So it's kind of like a team up to go hunt monsters. I have heard that this is amazing and has a lot of kind of metaphors weaved throughout it for our modern day. I just read Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi last month and I absolutely loved it. It was an experience that absolutely blew me away. So I am really excited to get to another book by them. And I'm not actually sure where this is physically set and whether this is a kind of fake world, utopia world, alternative world, but Akwaeke Emezi is from Nigeria. And another one that I might like to get to for this prompt is The Haunted Tropics Caribbean Ghost Stories, and this was edited by Martin Murnau. So this is a collection of spooky stories, ghost stories, all set around the Caribbean islands. It's an anthology collection, so it's a ton of different authors from the Caribbean islands, and I love a good ghost story. So let's let's try this one. And the last reading specific privateer pilot reading prompt is to read a book with a main character who is completely different from you. I think this is a really exciting prompt because it's entirely subjective and you are just encouraged to find a book with a perspective that is outside of your own, to kind of read new perspectives, get new takes, just expand your horizons. So for this one, I am really excited to read The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. This is a YA novel told in verse, and in The Black Flamingo, we are following a mixed race gay teen named Michael. He is living in London, and we are exploring his kind of coming out journey and also his indoctrination into drag and the drag scene. And I have just heard that this is so kind of joyous and happy and an experience that I am just really excited to read about. I have heard such great things about this. This was really hyped, I think, over the summer, and I just didn't get a chance to get to it then, so this is the perfect opportunity to add this to my TBR. I also have only ever read one novel written in verse. I absolutely loved it. That was Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, so very excited to get to this one. So those are all of the reading prompts associated with the Privateer Pilot team in the Bias Breaker Readathon. Let me know if you are also thinking about participating in the Bias Breaker Readathon. We would love to have you take part. I will list all of the teams and all of the associated reading prompts below so that you can decide what team you might want to be a part of. Obviously, I would love to have you on the Privateer Pilot team, but just follow your heart and do what makes the most sense to you and do what makes you feel the most comfortable. That's all that matters, pals. So that was my Bias Breaker Readathon TBR, and now we're gonna get into my regular monthly D20 challenge. So if you're new here, every month I have this D&D D20 die and I roll it 3 times. On this die there are 20 sides and I have 20 reading prompts associated with every number that might come up. And the whole point of the D&D D20 challenge is to help me read books that are on my owned TBR shelf. I am a filthy book buyer. I just have a habit that I'm never gonna be able to quit. So this just really makes me pick books that are on my physical shelf. It just says read them. Read them please, girl. So I'm gonna roll it 3 times and then with whatever number that comes up for each roll, we're gonna pick a book for it. So let's just dive in and get into roll number 1. With the first roll, we got the number 19. And 19 is just to read a book that is not a conventional novel. So this could be a novella. It could be a short story collection. It could be a graphic novel. It could be a nonfiction story. It could just be something that is just not a traditional novel. And for this one, your girl's heart is always with short stories. So for this, she's gonna be reading Tiny Nightmares, very short tales of horror. This is a fairly recent addition to my TBR because I love short stories and I love horror, so a collection of very short horror short stories, yes please. This is an anthology collection, so it's all different horror authors that are all submitting very short stories of horror. I think there's over 40 stories in this, and that absolutely aligns with my taste. So for the number 19, I'm gonna be reading some Tiny Nightmares. Now, let's move on to roll number 2. So roll 2 revealed the number 6, and this was another super generous one. It's to read my most recently acquired book. So actually, I think my most recently acquired book was Earthlings by Sayaka Murata because I bought it for the Bias Breaker Readathon, but we're just gonna go a little bit farther back than that because I want to pick a new book. And for this one, I will be reading Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a 2020 release. I just picked this up. I think it was Avi who mentioned that she read this recently and really loved it. So I am here for Stephen Graham Jones. I am making my way through his backlist. I have read one book a month of his since September, so why not continue on? Also, I love picking a short little novella for a reading challenge. So in Night of the Mannequins, this is a teen slasher, essentially. We are following a group of teens who decide to go do a prank, and then it goes horribly awry and turns into a slasher fest. So I'm here for that. Stephen Graham Jones, I know he's gonna bring the horror. I know he's gonna bring the pain. So really excited for this one. Let's move on to that third and final roll. Roll 3 revealed the number 16, and that is to read a repeat author, an author that I have read from before. So I feel like I'm just gonna go 3 for 3 and pick another horror. I just feel like this is gonna be a really spooky December. I'm really feeling the spooky horror December vibes. So for this one, I am going to be reading Kin by Kealan Patrick Burke. I have previously read some novellas by Kealan Patrick Burke. I have read Blanky as well as Sour Candy, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't love them. They were like okay. I felt like they had potential though, and Jordaline just raves about Kin, and I love Jordaline, so I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna give it a chance. And this has been on my shelf for a while, so I might as well. I bought it, so let's read it. In Kin, this is a revenge story, and I love vengeance, and I love revenge. We are following a woman named Claire who escaped some sort of massacre, and now, later on in her life, is returning. She's returning to this place where this massacre occurred. On the back, this is compared to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so I'm here for it. I'm here for that. I'm here for that slasher. I'm here for slasher holidays. So there you have it, pals. Some good picks for the end of the year. I think that in 2021, so starting with my January TBR, I think I'm going to change up the reading prompts, and I'm going to change up the rules for the D20 challenge. Just keep it fresh, keep me into it, keep me invested in the game. But I'm really excited with those roles, and I'm really excited about what I will be reading in December. So let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought. Let me know if you want to read any of these books, and we can chat about them. So thanks again for being here, pals. I absolutely love talking books with you all and hanging out with you all. I hope to see you in the Bias Breaker readathon. Again, I will link all of the information about it below, but take care out there, pals. Stay safe, stay spooky, and until next time, see you, pals!